Should the Houston Texans trade away John Metchie III? Now, there's been a bunch of reports about this for a while now, with trade rumors for guys like John Metchie, for guys like Dameon Pierce on this Houston Texans team who are on the come up, and just with new additions, like at the wide receiver spot with Higgins and Noel through the draft. And then we also drafted a running back out of USC. I forgot what his name was, Rudy Marks maybe. But so with guys coming in like this, it's definitely in the realm of possibility that the Texans do trade away guys like John Metchie, maybe Xavier Hutchinson, maybe Dameon Pierce, who are young guys who are still on rookie contracts, who have potential and have shown potential, especially in the guy like Dameon Pierce, but maybe just do not fit this team anymore because they're trying to compete and take it to the next level. And so we're not going to talk about all these players. We're going to talk about John Metchie today because I've been seeing his name pop up a lot recently. And here's my take on it. So the Texans receiving group, wide receiver room is pretty good. We have Nico Collins, who I think is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL when healthy. Big, long threat, goes deep, can beat you on the first step, can beat you downfield, is a good red zone target, and I think he's obviously wide receiver number 1. I don't think there's any question about it. We do have Tank Dell, and he was wide receiver 2 for most of last year, especially after Stephon Diggs went out, but he is expected to miss most of next year with that very saddening and gruesome injury against the Chiefs in Week 15, I believe, last year. That leg injury where it broke everything, his MCL, ACL, all that. And so it's going to take him time to recover. I don't expect him to come back next year. I also think the Texans should not push him at all to come back next year. So he will be out for all of next year. But when we get him back, hopefully in 2026, that will be another nice young wide receiver to add to this wide receiver room. And then obviously we have guys like Christian Kirk, who we traded for, and he's a veteran, a guy who's been here, done that, and he will, I assume, be the wide receiver 2, kind of locked in. And then we have the new guys that we just got, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, both from Iowa State. Higgins was in the 2nd round, I believe. Noel was in the 3rd round. And Higgins, I get a lot of Nico Collins, like big, tall wide receiver who can stretch the field. Jalen Noel, kind of like Tank Dell in a way, but maybe not as shifty and maybe a little quicker. So those are 2 interesting guys to add to the team. And then we have guys like John Metchie and Xavier Hutchinson, who we drafted, I don't think in the same year, but John Metchie we drafted pretty high in like round 2 or 3. And then we drafted Xavier Hutchinson, I believe, in like the 6th or 7th round. So not as much pressure on him, I believe. There is pressure on Metchie, though, because he's been with this team, I believe this is 3rd year, and 3rd or 4th year. And he still has not found consistency with this team, found consistent minutes with this team, has never really hit his stride. And I don't blame him for a lot of it because even coming out of college, he had the injury, and then he was diagnosed with cancer in his rookie year. So he couldn't play after that. And you can't really do anything, obviously, when you're recovering from cancer. Thankfully, and thank God that he did come back and healthy. But ever since then, he had the injury, he had the cancer situation. He hasn't seemed to hit that mode he was in back at Alabama. He was never the quickest guy. He was never the tallest guy. He never had the best hands. But he's a great route runner, and he somehow seemed to get open a lot at Alabama, at least. And the Texans were hoping he would become that in the NFL, maybe as a slot more than anything. But he has not found consistent minutes with this team. And again, it's because last year we had guys like Nico, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. And then this year, again, it looks like he'll be maybe 6th in the pecking order. He's definitely behind Nico and Christian. I say he's behind Jaden Higgins just because we drafted him so high. Maybe him and Jalen Noel will fight for that like 5th, 4th spot. But yeah, it seems like time's running out for John Metchie, and a lot of writers are pushing the Texans to trade John Metchie while you can get something out of him. I would say the Texans should not trade John Metchie yet. And here's why. So I believe there's like a couple scenarios that can pan out here regarding John Metchie. And my thing is picking the lesser of two evils. So there's two bad scenarios that happen in this. One is, let's say we trade away John Metchie. We get a couple of late round picks. And, they're sometimes valuable in the draft, especially with Nick Caserio, who likes to wheel and deal. It seems like every single draft. It can be somewhat useful. But again, they're 6th, 7th round picks. I don't see the Texans getting much more than that from him. Again, he's a young guy, promising talent, who really hasn't been given a full chance yet, but he just hasn't shown it yet. So I don't think they're getting much for him. Let's say we do trade him away. And then on his new team, he actually flourishes. That would suck. That would hurt. And that is worse to me than this next scenario, which is what a lot of people worry about and is saying why we should trade him, is that we don't trade him, we hold on to him, and then next year, again, he doesn't show up, he doesn't find minutes on this team, and we end up letting him go for nothing. That is less painful to me than if we traded him away and he started playing really well and seeing what we missed out on. To me anyway. And let me know down below if you disagree, but I see it that way. Like, there's no way that if we miss out on trading John Metchie for a couple late round picks is worse than if we trade away John Metchie prematurely and then he turns out to be actually something really good. So I think the Texans should hold on to him. He's a cheap, viable, really good, like I said, 4th or 5th option at the wide receiver room because he has the potential to be a starter. We saw it at Alabama. I've seen glimpses of it with the Texans. And I think the Texans should hold on to that and keep him for the time being and see if he can get minutes on this team. Competition only adds fuel and fire to the rest of the team, even if he can't find minutes on this team in training camp, pushing guys, even like the rookies or even like the starters like Nico and Kirk to be better. And so I think you keep him, see what happens, and hope for the best. That's my take on it. Let me know down below if you disagree with that. If you do think the Texans should trade him, let me know what you think the rotation for the wide receiver room for the Texans will be next year. And do you think John Metchie will find any minutes consistently going forward? And if you'll ever reach that form that he had back at Alabama, let me know down below.